Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download.
Today we're talking about a WRAL investigation, which looks into why smaller police departments and sheriff's offices hire problem officers. We've reported recently about several officers who are facing serious criminal charges, and we found a pattern. Many of them had left a larger department while they were under investigation and were later hired by smaller departments. Megan Cloherty is looking into this as to why this is happening. Megan, tell us, what's the deal? You would think these police departments would vet their officers better.
Yes, and we will start by saying they try to. Nobody wants to hire a problem, right? But it really comes down to three things. And I spoke with at least a dozen law enforcement officers on background, off the record, just to have a conversation and get their perspectives on this, because I didn't want to call just three departments. So we called Highway Patrol, we called Clayton, we called SBI, we talked to Johnston County, I talked to Raleigh Police. Name them. Mm-hmm. And almost everybody kind of told me, this is really the problem. And I kind of filtered that down to three things. And the first is the hiring officers in these small departments don't have the time and resources. Mm-hmm. How? The second one is they don't have the training on doing the background checks, which you'd think we can fix. And the third one is, I'm blanking. The third one is the pressure to fill those jobs. And so the way we broke down this investigation is kind of digging into each one of those factors.
What about a hiring agency?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that comes down to resources, because these small departments have very small budgets. They have very small staff. And so when we talk about like that first factor, Gerald, the time and the resources, I'm picking off of a random, right? So let's say Benson County or Benson Police. They have 10 officers total, maybe fewer than that. They don't have the number of people that it requires. They don't have one person who's charged with hiring someone. Mm-hmm. It's like everybody has 5 jobs, right? So when you're looking to fill that position, a lot of times these bigger agencies, to protect the officers' personnel and all their data from getting out, they'll say, hey, Benson, I don't want to send the personnel file of this officer on email. So why don't you come up? We'll put you in a conference room. You can sit down with the file for as long as you want. You got it. And take the notes and stuff, but the file stays here. Mm-hmm. Well, Benson, in this, hypothetical scenario, says, I don't have 2 days to send an officer up to Raleigh to go through a personnel file of somebody who's been there for 20 years. Mm-hmm. So can you give me the highlights? And they only get this much of this much. Mm-hmm. And that is a pattern that we've been hearing is a big problem for these smaller departments.
Did you get a sense of these larger departments having a problem with this? Because they're flushing their bad apple.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it works for the big guy, right? They've tried to create, they being North Carolina lawmakers, those who are in the industry, such as the Sheriff's Association, major chiefs. They've tried to create a scenario where everybody can succeed. Mm-hmm. But it worked. The more resources and the money you have, the better, of course. Mm-hmm. So no, I haven't heard of bigger departments having these problems.
This has been a problem for decades.
Yeah, you were telling me you did a story about this.
Yeah, so there was a bad apple sheriff's deputy back in the day. Did some horrible things to people, and he had moved from department to department with very little vetting. Granted, that was a long time ago. That was like 70 years ago, but still. And what was happening before that.
Right.
And I guess in the end, the public loses.
The public loses, and I don't think... we are also obviously talking about a very small portion of law enforcement. The majority of people are in it for the right reasons and doing the right things. Yeah. But you are allowed in North Carolina as a law enforcement officer to retire while you're under investigation. Mm-hmm. Those investigations are not made public. So I can't find out why so-and-so was under investigation before he left, went to a smaller department, and then ended up being criminally charged. That doesn't mean that he was facing criminal charges before. Maybe he just, didn't put his body camera on or something that is far less consequential. But we can't know that. But the hiring offices can. Yeah. And that's another issue when it comes back to that second factor is the training. So we heard from all of these different perspectives and sources that North Carolina offers background training, like how to do background checks to officers. Mm-hmm. That's when your resources come in. I don't have a guy to send for 2 days to a training.
Right.
But I think a lot of the problem is, and we heard from a UNC public law professor who has identified this, he said a lot of times I think it's that the hiring, like, so back to our example, you're Benson, I'm Raleigh. I don't know that I'm supposed to give you the investigation when you ask for the personnel file. You don't know because you haven't had training to ask for it.
Right. Wouldn't you want it naturally?
Of course. But if you don't think maybe you don't even know it exists. Mm-hmm. I mean, every officer has to fill out a form when they leave any department for any reason. Mm-hmm. Say you're just leaving for family reasons or you're leaving to take a new job, nothing nefarious. You have to say that on a form that goes to the state. So the the small hiring agency can see that form and see you have to mark if you were under investigation when you left. Mm-hmm. So theoretically, I mean, you should have to look into it further. And then the state passed a law that said, no, you have to look into the last 5 years of an officer's personnel file. That is mandatory. Mm-hmm. But who's checking that it's done?
Let's take a quick break right there, and we'll be right back.
And there's legislature providing the money so they can look back at that officer's last 5 years.
Right. And I asked the Sheriff's Association, putting a law into place would suggest that it needed to be in place, would suggest that that wasn't being done.
Absolutely.
And their response was not every time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we have made this law to try and protect the public and the citizens from getting somebody in their small town who shouldn't be there.
I imagine there's even less scrutiny when an officer candidate comes from out of state.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even look into that. This whole investigation is within North Carolina because we have these 3 officers who I highlight their cases, but 2 of the 3 were under investigation when they left the larger department. Mm-hmm. So we were like, why would the smaller department hire them? Again, we don't know the nature of the investigation.
Right.
And then that goes to our third factor, which is pressure. Council members are like, hey, we need to fill this spot. Police chief is like, how are we doing? We need to get this, I can't have my guys on overtime for the rest of time.
Yeah.
And somebody applies, they have 20 years experience. They have a little something on the record, but hey, 20 years experience. Right. And these smaller departments aren't paying a lot. Mm-hmm. So you're not having, a deluge of candidates coming in. Yeah. So a lot of times it's like, I mean, we've heard this from Jeff Welty, that the law professor I mentioned, they can't be picky. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a sad situation to be in.
I guess that officer, unless they've been like on the air, a story that we have put on TV,
right?
That whatever they have in their file can just kind of stay hidden, and they can go to different departments.
Right.
At least the broadcast part of the news part of this is somewhat of a, hey, this person has had some issues in the past.
That's right. I mean, ostensibly, you could Google them and say, wait a minute, this is on WRAL that this person had an issue. But not to say that, I think that all of us have little things that pop up, little life things pop up. But when you have something that's an investigation that somebody says that you should look into and you hire them anyway, mm-hmm. What went wrong? And every case is different. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to dive into that. And I think it really comes down to those 3 things. And, we spoke with, just to wrap it up, we spoke with Sheriff Keith Stone, who's in Nash County, been there forever. Yep. And he's known, he knows everybody. And he worked in Nash County used to be this big, right? So he went from a small department to sort of a larger department. Mm-hmm. And he said it comes down to not just the pay, that we need to be paying these smaller officers more money, but that North Carolina did away with health care after retirement for law enforcement and the cost of living increases after retirement.
Did away with it.
So he says, so why would I choose this line of work? Mm-hmm. Why would I do this? I mean, it used to be you wanted to kind of police the area where you grew up. Right. Well, now they're paying $50,000 to $60,000. You can't make a living on that.
Somebody to go out and take a bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
So he says, we need to get better candidates. You have to have a better offer.
Yeah. You've
got to have a better job on hand. And that's what he thinks it comes down to. And he wants lawmakers to make that change.
What surprised you the most in doing this story?
And, it's never one silver bullet and you want it to be. You want it to say, this is the thing that lawmakers need to change. I think I feel bad for smaller departments because it's, again, like I started, it's not like they want this. They don't want a problem officer. Mm-hmm. But they're kind of, hands are tied. They have this much money. They don't have any time to look into somebody.
Right.
They haven't had the training. I mean, it's not true for every small department, mm-hmm. but most of them it is. And so it's like, how are you supposed to get somebody great or know who you're getting if you don't have the availability to do that?
That's quite a dilemma.
Yeah. So that's airing today. We have a huge web story about this, digging into it, and gosh, I'd love to hear what people have to say about this because if you live in some of those smaller communities, you have a relationship with these officers. So there's also that. Gosh, I can't believe this person could be accused of that. I mean, there's a betrayal there too. Yeah. Again, these three officers who we're highlighting in this story are not convicted; they're accused.
Right.
But they have been charged. There's probable cause, and I mean, it is concerning.
I think what you said bears mentioning again. It's very important. These are a very small percentage of the officers, the men and women who wear a uniform.
Yes.
The lion's share, the vast majority, are in it for the right reasons, and they follow the book, and they do their jobs the way they're supposed to be. Yet when something happens with an officer that's negative, it just sheds a bad light on the whole department.
And it's because they're in a position of trust. And everyone I spoke with said that. They said, we don't want this to happen, but we also are trying to do our best, so it just makes us look bad when this happens. Let's shore this up. Let's fix the problem.
Thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. That's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. You can sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.